the room here. I'm really, really happy to be here. First time in Nepal. I really, really love it. And this is a really amazing conference. Everybody is like super engaged and happy and friendly, so I really, really love it. So a little bit about myself. My name is Karlitschek. I'm German, as you can hear. And I'm a developer, so I studied computer science long time ago. And I've really got quickly involved in lots of different open source projects over the years. For example, I was a contributor and board member for the KDE project for many years, like 15 years or something. And this was really something that really shaped my experience, my passion for open source. It's a community without a company. Just everybody's contributing together from all over the world, and together we're building a great product, which was really fascinating for me. The problem with KDE is, of course, that everybody's a volunteer, so no one really got paid to do that, right? Which is maybe fine. If you're a student, you can do a little bit of coding on the side, but if you really want to do this full time, your whole day, then it's a bit tricky if there's no way to get money there, because we all need jobs, of course. And this encouraged me later when I founded my own open source projects like UbuCon and a little bit later Nextcloud, to do this in a way that actually people get paid for what they're doing. So this is something that's for me personally very important, because only then you can really work on the software like full time. And this is of course the topic of the talk that I want to present to you today, how an open source community and company can be very true to the open source values and still have a business model where people really get paid for doing that. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the motivation, why I'm doing Nextcloud. So for me, it was always the question, what is with these big tech companies here from the US, right? We all know them. They all provide these cloud services, these software as a service products, and they basically have all our data, all our communication. Everything is stored on the servers of these 5 big companies. And for me as an open source person, because open source for me it's all about control and privacy and security and knowing what the code does and being able to run it and debug the code and develop the code. For me this was really not a good situation, because you don't really know what's going on. You give them your data and analyze it or sell it, you don't know, and you're not really in control. For me open source is about being in control. So for me this was really the problem here, and this is why I then created Nextcloud as an open source alternative. Who in the room knows Nextcloud? Okay, half roughly, that's not too bad. But of course it means that I should explain a little bit more what Nextcloud is and what we are doing here. So Nextcloud is what is called a content collaboration suite. It's very similar to Microsoft 365 and to Google Workspace. So you can do all the things you need to do to communicate and collaborate with other people over the internet. There's file management, there's Talk, which is like chat and video conferencing, similar to Microsoft Teams. There's Groupware, which is mail, calendar, and contacts. And of course, there's also Office for working with your Office documents. The difference between all of that and Microsoft and Google and Slack and Zoom and Dropbox is that this is only software you can download from our website. You can put it on any machine you want, and then you have your private collaboration suite. You really have your private Microsoft 365, your private Google Workspace. You can put it on a Raspberry Pi if you just want to have something for 5, 6, 7 users. But you can also put it on a bigger Linux server if you have a few hundred or a few thousand users, or even on a Kubernetes cluster if you really have hundreds, thousands, or millions of users. And the thing is, sometimes people come to our website and want to create an account. You cannot create an account because we don't host the data. We don't host the software at all. We don't even want your data. We don't want your login. We don't want your passwords. You can only download the software and put it somewhere you want, and then you have your private instance. So this is the idea behind Nextcloud. So let's go a little bit through the features first. The core of it is the file management. This is very similar to Google Drive or Dropbox. You can upload and download your files. You can share it with other people. You can tag it. You can search it. You can share it with others. It's a very powerful file management tool. And of course, we also have native applications. For example, there's a sync client for Mac, Windows, Linux, and also mobile clients for iOS and Android. So you have all your files always available all the time. So it's very similar, as you know, from Google Drive and OneDrive from Microsoft. Then there's, of course, Nextcloud Talk. This is very similar to Teams. which has this group chat application. You have your chat rooms on the side, you have one-on-one chats or group chats, and then you can communicate with your people, and you can upload and download your files, you can post calendar invitations or polls and all kinds of things, and can really nicely collaborate with everybody here. And of course, you can press the call button, and then this turns into a video conference, and you can have your video calls with other people. There we also have native clients for Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and Android. You can chat from your phone with your colleagues, you get push notifications, your phone rings if someone calls you. It's really a full collaboration suite here. Then we have a very powerful calendar, very similar to Google Calendar or also Outlook, where you can have your different meetings and you can share it with others and everything you expect there. Then there's a mail interface, very similar to Gmail and others, also with very nice comfort features like SSL, GPG, S-MIME encryption, and also some AI features, and we'll show it later. Then there's contact management, so you can manage all your contacts. Again, you can sync it with your phone, so you have everything always in sync between your different devices. Then there is a project management tool. This is a Kanban-style project management tool. We have different cards, you can drag and drop it around. It's very nice for agile project management, and yeah, we use it, of course, internally a lot, so it's very nice for keeping an overview. Then, of course, very important, there's this Office component, so you can also edit your Word, Excel, PowerPoint files in Nextcloud in the browser, and also collaboratively, so you can have different cursors, different people working on the same document at the same time. It's quite powerful. Then there's a whiteboard, where you can also collaboratively with other people at the same time work on a whiteboard. And the cool thing, the data of the whiteboard is stored in a file. Like everything in Nextcloud, you can also copy it around and share it with others to work together. So it's a nice, powerful application. Then a little bit more interesting, I think, is our AI features. So we have our own Nextcloud assistant that's very similar to Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini. The important thing is that everything we do runs locally on your machine. As I showed earlier, all of Nextcloud can be deployed on your local Raspberry Pi or your Linux server, and this is for everything, including the AI features. So we support the local AI functionalities we have here. Of course, you can also connect to service providers. If you don't want to have your own GPU in your server, you can also use other services, but of course, it's the recommended way to have everything open source and locally on your machine. So it can do all kinds of useful things. For example, detect suspicious logins, or do face recognition in your photos, or object recognition. You can do dictations and all kinds of other things. And at any time in Nextcloud, you can press the assistant button, and then you get this nice window where you can work with all kinds of text documents, or with images, or videos, or speech, or everything around that. I personally think this is not super interesting because you can do this with a lot of other local AI systems too. I think the really interesting part is it's about integrating with the rest of Nextcloud. To give you some examples, this is the mail interface again that I showed you earlier. So we have here on the sidebar, we can detect the very important emails, and you have this priority inbox on the side. And we can also detect, for example, if an email requires an answer from you, and they show up in a special follow-up section. So it's recommended like, hey, you haven't answered this email yet, but it seems to require an answer from you, and the AI can detect this here. And of course, can also help with summarizing email thread or generating emails for you. So that's a nice, powerful feature directly integrated into a Nextcloud application. Another example is Nextcloud Talk. This is, as I showed you earlier, this is a video conferencing system that we also have the AI features integrated. For example, it can generate a summary of every call, where you get a nice summary of what was discussed in the call, transcript, and also a shorter summary. And then if you missed the call, for example, because you're on vacation or something, you can later see what was discussed in a call that you missed. That's super useful. Another cool feature is, for example, if you're like on vacation for a week and you come back to your work, and then you see, oh, this chat channel has like 500 messages that you haven't read yet. It's of course terrible, we all know the problem. You can press a button, say, hey, I want to have a summary, and generates a nice summary of what was discussed while you were aware, and you get a nice summary then in the chat so you know what's going on. So I think these are also very nice AI features that you know from other solutions too, but I think we can do a little bit more. We can do a little bit more cooler stuff. For example, here we have context chat, and this is a feature where the Nextcloud assistant knows your data in your Nextcloud. So the Nextcloud assistant can read all your emails, your chat messages, your files, your calendar entries, your to-dos, and everything else. And then can, of course, then answer questions like, hey, you're going to UbuCon next week, what time does it start? And you can find the information in your emails and give it to you in natural language. Or you can say, hey, what is important to organize an event, and goes through your project management tool and gives you a nice summarized answer. So this is very, very useful. Of course, you think that, like this AI system is reading all my data. Is this not a bit scary? No, it's not, because again, it's all open source and running on your server. So no data is leaving your personal server. So this is very unique, and I think we're the only ones who can do it like that. Next feature, or last feature I want to show you here in the AI section is that I'm very happy about that we have this agent support now. So you can, in the assistant, say, hey, can you please send an email to my friend Frank to invite him for a meeting next week when the sun is shining, and also include a summary of the latest support escalations or something like that. And you can do all these different calls in Nextcloud, collect the information, and does the action for you. So that's a feature that other big tech companies has announced for quite some time, and I'm really, really happy that we as an open source solution are really leading here. Of course, we have this done in a very secure way. For example, we identified critical things. For example, if the assistant's sending an email in my name, I really want to make sure that this is proper, that people don't get like weird names in my name. So the critical actions there, you get a confirmation here. You can say, okay, I'm going to invite this person now. Is this okay? You can say yes, and then the information goes out. We always have to double check that they're actually doing the right thing. So that's a bit of an overview over Nextcloud as a functionality. I'm really happy that we have one of the most popular open source projects. We have about 500,000 servers deployed by community people all over the world there. There are around 50 million users. Of course, we don't know it exactly because we don't track any users. We just see that, okay, 500,000 servers are contacting our update server, are answering for updates, so we know this roughly, and we do an estimation of 50 million users, but because we don't have the data, we don't track anything, this is only an estimate. We're also happy they had lots of contributors, so over 2,000 contributors on GitHub for the core alone. This is without translations and third-party apps, where we also have 400, so it's a very, very active community we have here. So let's talk a little bit about the company, because as I said earlier, I wanted to create a way where people get paid for doing open source development. This is why we created also a company, but the company is privately owned. We don't have any investors, so it's very important for sustainability. We are around 140 people. Actually, this is outdated, and it's now 150 already. So it's growing. We are in 23 countries all over the world, so a very global organization from all over the world, from every continent, which I think creates a very, very nice work atmosphere and company spirit. We only have 2 offices in Germany, and they're very small with like 10 people, and the rest of the company is remote, so really a remote-first company. We are fully committed to open source, and we are hiring. So we're really hiring. If someone is interested to work for a cool open source company remotely, then let me know later. So this is the growth. I think we have a very nice growth here as a company, because what we do as Nextcloud is really, really important nowadays. You know, all the geopolitical tensions at the moment, which means that more and more people want to keep their data under control, and of course this is what we provide. So, of course, the topic of this talk was how to build a sustainable open source company. I think I showed you that we have that. We have a nice product. It's fully open source. We are a profitable and steadily growing company. But, of course, what is important? How do you do that? So there are lots and lots of things to say. I could talk about this like for days and days. But like for this conference, I want to focus on 3 aspects, how to do a sustainable open source company. Let's first talk a little bit about ethics. So this is something that's for me personally very, very important. The goal of Nextcloud is not to make some investors happy. We don't have any investors, or to optimize the stock market or something else. The goal of the Nextcloud company is to provide and build a great open source product that everybody can use. So that's the goal behind it. And for that it's very important that we are not just like chasing money all the time, but we also like making sure that our ethics, our goals, our principles are followed. And this is why from the very beginning, we had a big discussion in the company and we gave ourselves some ethical principles that we still follow for today. So the first thing is sustainability. We are not optimizing anything for like big profit next quarter or next year. This is all about optimized in a way that it's a nice, sustainable, open source product and company that still exists in many, many, many years. So that's very important for us. Next thing is privacy and security. I mean, this was the motivation to create Nextcloud in the first place. And everything we do is basically make sure that we don't track any data of the users. As I said, we don't even have the user data. We don't have any tracking in the software. There's really nothing we do there to compromise privacy and security. It's actually the mission of Nextcloud to give you control over your data, and we don't really know what you're doing with Nextcloud, and this is how it should be. Then user-centered design. I think one of the weaknesses of lots of open source projects is that they don't care so much about the user experience. That's unfortunately a bit of a problem. It's getting better nowadays, but still I know a lot of open source projects who really have not a nice user experience. And for us it's really different. We have a very strong design team where we make sure that everything is like usable and really like, yeah, good to use for normal people, not only for IT experts like us. Trust is something that is very important. So a lot of people ask us, hey, you have the thousands of contributors from all over the world coming together, working together on the software. Everybody's contributing code and design and things. How do you make sure that this is all working? We really have a lot of trust. This is one of the principles in our community, that everybody has a goodwill to bring the best ideas together. Of course, we have review process and automatic tests and so on, so we make sure that no really bad thing is committed into the code. But we're really open and welcoming to everybody, and this really works out great. So we really have a nice, diverse community base because we actually trust each other. Then open source. I mean, this may be a bit obvious here for this conference, but everything we do, 100% is open source. There are no proprietary pieces at all. So everything we do is in public repositories. Everything can be seen by everybody. It's not only the code, also the issues, the pull request, the tests, the planning, everything is in the open because we really want to have this open community that is fair for everybody. Open standards, of course. So whenever possible, we use open standards like WebDAV, CalDAV, CARDAV, ActivityPub, LDAP, and so on. So we don't really invent our own APIs, only if absolutely needed, only if there's absolutely no alternative. But otherwise, we use open standards, which is very important. Then decentralization. Again, there's a reason why we as Nextcloud company don't provide a Nextcloud service. Because then if we would provide a Nextcloud service, we would somehow automatically become like the central instance for everybody again. And I don't want that. The whole idea of Nextcloud is decentralization, that the IT and infrastructure is somewhere, but not in our servers. So this is why we don't provide any service. We only give you the software so that you can run the software as you want to run it. Community, it's very important, as I said earlier, we work in the open. Like the way we work on GitHub is there's no real difference between an employee and a contributor. Everybody has the same information, everybody has the same commit rights, everybody has the same review rights. So this is really completely open and transparent, and only because of that we have this active community. Inclusion and diversity, again, very important. As I said earlier, we have employees in 23 countries and contributors in, I don't know, maybe 100 countries, I don't know. We don't track this, obviously. And we really, really like to have the influence from everybody working together. Doesn't matter where they're coming from, what their cultural background is, what language they speak, what time zone they're in. This all does not really matter, because it's all about like bringing the best knowledge together and then building a great product. So I'm really convinced about inclusion and diversity, which creates just a better product for everybody. And accessibility is another thing that's very important. Not everybody has like can use a computer as like, I don't know, as some of you might do it. Some have like, I don't know, hearing issues or typing issues or eyesight or lots of other things. And of course, good software is usable by everybody. It doesn't matter what background they have or what kind of restrictions they might have. So this is very important. These are very important principles, and I think it is very important that a company just not doing things because we do it like that or because it brings money, but really important to follow certain principles. And our community also appreciates that because they know that we're doing this for the right thing, to make the world a better place. It's not just to make some money. So very important. Second thing is, of course, the business model. That's very, very important for an open source company. So as I said earlier, everything we do is open source. So everything is AGPL v3 licensed. This is very key for us. So everybody has the same rights. So the company has no special rights. Actually, the ownership of the code is also distributed. We don't have a contributor license agreement, so everybody who contributes to Nextcloud keeps the copyright on their component, on their code. The only thing that's required is that we all use the same license, AGPL. And this makes it available for everybody, and everybody is at the same eye level. It's very important. And we also don't do any professional services. We don't do any hosting. This is very important. Of course, you might ask, okay, this is all great, but how do you actually then make any money? If everything is just for free and great and available, how do you make any money? We are selling something called Nextcloud Enterprise, which gives you support and access and customization and consulting, lots of things around basically the product. So if you run Nextcloud for 100 users, 200 users, that's all cool. But maybe if you're a big university, maybe if you're a big government, maybe a big company, and you run Nextcloud in a mission-critical way, and it's really important, and thousands, 10,000s of users can use it like all the time without any downtime, then maybe you want to have professional support from the developers themselves. And this is what we are selling. So this is basically per user subscription. It starts with 100 users, and this is how we make any money. This is very similar to Red Hat, to MariaDB, to Canonical 2, very similar business model, and this is very sustainable, and this is how it should be. So this is again a bit of an overview. As a customer, you get additional like expertise, influence, compliance, but service around the software. Third is community, as I said. So you see Nextcloud as a software that is like basically supported by the community and also by the company together. But we all have the same code that we're contributing. It all comes together on the top. As I said, we are working on GitHub. Everything's transparent, the pull requests, the issues, the planning, everything is available for everybody, so it's really the very fair situation. Then if you want to build plugins or applications, apps as we call it, on top of Nextcloud, you can also do that. There are over 400 available. That you can just contribute, like, I don't know, there's some people doing a cookbook application, some people doing some finance management, some people doing some note-taking, lots of crazy things on top of Nextcloud, and you can do this too as a community member. So that's a photo of our last year's community conference. It happened in Berlin. We had over 300 people there. Actually, in 2 weeks, we have the next one in Berlin. It's a bit far away from here, but if you want to join, everybody is welcome, and this year will be a lot bigger from looking at the registrations. So that's all great. How can you get involved? How can you be part? How can we contribute? I picked like 3 different things here. First is, if you want to contribute as a developer, we have a website, nextcloud.com/developers. There you have like API documentation, you have tutorials, you have example applications, you have a mentoring program. There are all kinds of resources that you can use to contribute to Nextcloud, and it can be to the core or to applications or translations or whatever, lots of different options. Then, as I said earlier, we are hiring, we are growing. So if you're interested in working for a cool, remote, international open source company, then you can have a look at nextcloud.com/jobs. There are lots of different options, and just send a CV and let's see what we can do. And then the third thing is, of course, if you're like a company or if you're a service provider or system integrator or something, then you're also very welcome to become a partner of us to bring Nextcloud to these local markets. And we actually have lots of interest here from Nepal already. I have lots of meetings next week already, or from other places in Asia. We're very, very happy to bring more partners on board to bring Nextcloud in a professional way to the Asian market here. So end of the presentation. So the summary for me is like open source is a plus, not a minus. So building a business model on top of open source is a great thing. It helps you to build a community, to build a great product. Lots of people think that it's a bad thing to give your software away for free. I think it's the opposite. I think it's a really good thing that helps you. A community is very important, and an international and diverse key is absolutely key to everything. If like all the team members are just based in one country, then it's definitely not a good product in my experience. So, thanks a lot. If I see correctly, then we have 2 minutes for questions.
Any questions? We have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we have a bit of, the question was to repeat, we are not worried about the Microsoft strategy, like they're doing this, for example, with bundling. So as you might know, there were solutions like Slack or Mattermost or Rocket Chat, and then during the pandemic, Microsoft said, okay, we have Microsoft Teams, and we just give it away for free to everybody as part of the normal contract. And then everybody had Teams, and everybody's using Teams, and all the other products are going down because Teams is now part of the bundle. So this kind of bundling, I think this is what you're referring to, is really, really a problem. And we are trying to fight this. For example, we're working with the European Commission to maybe regulate that, to ban this behavior, but it's of course true, Microsoft is a big enemy, so it's a big challenge to fight them, but I don't know, I'm an optimist. I think at the end of the day, an open solution will win, but let's see. Yeah, thank you. Sure, thank you. Another question? Maybe you can pass the microphone.
Hello? Yeah. I want to know that when you are providing software, AI, which you can put on your own server, from where does this AI get the training data?
Yeah.
How does it obtain training data? Because the commercial ones are going through the whole internet and even breaking copyright and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So actually there are lots and lots of different models behind the Nextcloud Assistant. For the more simpler things, for the face recognition, for example, or the object detection in photos, we use publicly available Creative Commons training sets to create our own models. And this is like, I think it's all fine, it's also reproducible, and you can really check what's going on. The really, really large language model, we are not in the situation to create our own ones. We're a small organization. So we have an abstraction layer where you can put all the other open source ones below it. We have integrations with Llama, with like Falcon, with Mistral, with DeepSeek, with all the others. In this area, we have to use what's available. And you pointed out the problems of them. They like have copyrighted material in there. But there we have to use what's available. We cannot create our own, we are too small.
Any questions?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Nextcloud is a fork of OpenCloud, right? So, like, since you're the founder, I'd want to know why was there any reason to fork OpenCloud into Nextcloud? Like, since one was already there, and since I also believe you are also the founder of OpenCloud, right?
Of OwnCloud?
OwnCloud, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, so this is a topic for a talk on its own. I need to talk about this for an hour. So actually, when I founded OwnCloud, I did some mistakes. So I founded it, and then I decided, okay, let's work together with some experienced managers, let's go to the US, let's find American investors and so on. And this had a result that the whole thing exploded. This is why the core people left and created Nextcloud, and now we are independent. And this is working a lot better. So OwnCloud was basically my first try, and I did some mistakes working together with the wrong people, working with some commercial investors, venture capital companies, and this was a mistake. So this is why it's so important as Nextcloud that we're completely independent and we don't have any investors. So, but if you look on YouTube, there are talks from me about exactly this topic for 1 hour. So it's a big question.
Okay, thanks.
Some other questions?
Thank you. Thanks, Frank, for everything that you do. My question is, what advice would you give to maybe 1 or 2 maintainers of a successful open source project that they're doing it in their spare time? They've got lots of users, they seem to have momentum. What advice would you have for them to take from that step to something that could perhaps provide them an income?
That's a big question. I think it really depends also on your situation. So first of all, if you do something just for fun, as a hobby, that's totally cool. If you have like your day job and you do some nice open project on the side, I think this is no problem at all. It's just, you don't have any pressure to make this successful because it's just fun for you, right? So this is totally fine. If you really want to turn your hobby into your job, that's of course then a big of a critical thing. There's a lot of things to consider. For example, one of the benefits of Nextcloud is that it's useful for home users, for fun at home, but also for companies. Because then the home users, they promote the solution, they contribute, they like it, there's lots of people here, and that the companies, they will pay for it. So I think an important part of your hobby project needs to be that it's also attractive to companies. Because monetizing home users, this will not work. You will only be successful providing something for companies. And yeah, this is one thing, and there are 1,000 more things. Maybe we can talk about it later.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do we still have time? Not really? One more question. At the end, the back.
I tried to be loud, but I couldn't. If it comes from someone who would like to build a company that is open source, what would be the most challenging aspect that you think they would have to face, and how could they address it?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, there are lots of different challenges, but I mean, we are all engineers here, I think. So I think we all know how to build good software. This is not a problem. Lots of us make the mistake to think that it's enough to build a good software and then the rest will happen automatically, and this is not the case. So I think one of the biggest challenges is actually to make your software popular. So you call it marketing. Of course, people think that marketing is evil, you might think so, but at the end of the day, good software is not enough. You need to create good software that is loved by millions of people. And I think this is a big challenge. But this is also a thing while the open source strategy works very well. I mean, I'm here for the first time in Nepal, and in the audience are lots of people who know Nextcloud, right? How is this possible? We don't do any TV advertising here, right? So this is the power of open source, and this is why open source is very good for creating businesses. So I think we are out of time. So thanks a lot, and talk to you later.